If you've been having issues with forearm pain that's keeping you from training your arms, you might want to check this video out, so stay tuned. Hey guys, what's going on? Zach from All Strength Training. I wanted to just take you through something that I did personally to resolve some issues that I was having with pain in my forearms when I was doing a lot of arm training. So this presents a lot as lateral epicondylitis, which is tennis elbow. Now, this was something that wasn't 100% diagnosed. This was sort of symptomatically diagnosed from physical therapy and just from looking at some of the issues that I was having, which was basically any time that I would do any sort of curl, I was getting a ton of discomfort and pain through the top of the forearm, through the brachioradialis, and through kind of like if you were to pull the wrist back right where this giant chunk of muscle is right here. So this is a fairly common thing, I think, for a lot of people who lift, especially anybody who does a lot of arm stuff, does a lot of grip demanding things. So what I'm going to show you is what I did to take care of this. Now, the nice thing is, with sort of a three-step process, it really didn't take a long time. So let's get started. All right, so the first two things that we're going to do are more mobility things. So really what's kind of going on is we get a lot of tissue restriction through both the muscles that tend to flex the wrist this direction and extend this way. So two things that I would do before any sort of arm movement, any sort of back movement. So I would find a flat surface. My preference is just finding a flat bench. You can see, obviously, I'm not demonstrating it on a flat bench. I'm in an Airbnb right now. But what I'm going to do is I want to take my hand and I want to splay my fingers out nice and wide right here. So that way we're going to get as much length through the tissue initially on the bottom of the forearm here. And then we're going to go and kind of flip the other side as well. So I'm going to spread my hand out nice and wide, drop it right onto the bench, desk, chair, stool, whatever I can find. I'm going to drive my entire hand into that surface. And my goal is keep the fingers spread out as much as I can. Okay, so if I feel that my fingers are starting to slide together, I need to pull back on how far I'm taking this stretch. So first, I get all that locked down. I haven't shifted into a stretch here quite yet, but if you're super tight, you might already be feeling some tension in the back of the forearm right here. Now, all I want to do is keep this hand really, really open and start shifting forward until I really feel the stretch build and until I feel like I'm losing control over keeping that entire palm flat against the bench surface. So I'm just going to shift, and I want to keep my elbow completely straight. If you soften up the elbow, you're going to relax some of the muscles here. We're trying to take this into a stretch, so you got to keep this arm pretty extended. So I'm here. I'm just shifting until I find it. So right here, this is perfect for me. Now I'm going to hang out in this position for a good 60 seconds. Now, another thing that I like to do is once I'm here, I would actually take my arm and kind of corkscrew it out to the side just a little bit. So real subtle, arm is here, kind of take my hand and think like I'm screwing it into the bench and shifting forward again, kind of hanging out here for a solid 60 seconds or so. Do this on both sides. Even if you're only having pain on one side, I would recommend doing both sides just so you don't end up finding that now that you fix one side, you're suddenly getting pain on the other side. So this is gonna be our first stretch. All right, so now we're just gonna flip it. So we're gonna work the other side, which is most likely where you're feeling a lot of the pain. So, but I do like to hit both sides of this just as a precautionary measure. So we're gonna do the same sort of concept, except now I need to get contact with the entire back of the hand here. So and this is probably gonna feel significantly more restricted. So I'm gonna kind of pivot this towards you guys. So I'm taking the back of my hand, again, splaying my fingers out as wide as I can. Try to get a full point of contact. Now here, actually go to the side here, you can see I'm pretty far this way. Okay, right now I have not implemented a stretch into the back of this forearm yet. Now I'm just gonna drive my wrist down Keep the whole back of my hand in contact with the bench, and then just start shifting back. And you can see I have not gone very far. And for me, this is, even without having forearm pain right now, this is a pretty significant stretch. Now, like I'd mentioned on the previous stretch, I do like to take this arm and sort of screw it into the bench. Again, keeping the elbow fully extended, just hanging out here in this position again for about 60 to 90 seconds. Now, one thing that you can do is you can actually add just a little bit of what's called PNF. So PNF stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. You probably don't really give a shit about what it stands for, but the concept is that you're basically alternating a muscle contraction with a stretch. So instead of just sitting there for 60 seconds the whole time, what you can do is we can actually add an intentional contraction of these muscles every like 10 to 20 seconds. So what that would look like is I'm here. So I'm just going to take myself into a stretch, hang out here. And instead of just staying here, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to try to drive the back of my hand this direction into this bench surface. Now, nothing is going to move. This is going to be like a static isometric contraction. So I'm staying here. So I get my stretch, hang out for about 10 seconds. I'm simply going to drive the hand on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like you're working as hard as you've ever worked. You're driving it like a scale of maybe like 3 to 4. We do not need to go super aggressive on this. It's just to get the muscles here to engage a little bit, which sometimes can actually allow you to take the stretch a little further. So I've done that for about 10 seconds. Now I'm going to relax. And I'm just going to go just a little further into that stretch. And what you'll do is I like to go 10 seconds of stretch, 10 seconds of contraction. And you're just going to go until you can no longer get any sort of range improvement. So it might be 2, 3, maybe 4 reps. But for most people, by that point, you've kind of hit as far as you're going to get. So, which again is going to usually take roughly a minute or so to get. So now that I've created some improvement in tissue length on both sides of the forearm, most likely you're going to already start noticing a reduction in forearm pain. However, one of the reasons why this tends to be an issue to begin with, this is an overuse injury. So tennis elbow and tightness in forearms is usually caused because we spend a ton of time training the muscles that actually close the hand. But really, there's nothing that you typically would do in a normal environment to train the muscles that open the hand. And think of it like this. It's sort of like if all I do is train my biceps and I never train my triceps, logically speaking, I'm probably going to end up with some issues purely based on an imbalance. So there is good news. I have found something that does allow you to train the muscles of the hand. So I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so now for the strengthening component of this. So what I've got is this. So this is called a Hand X band. That's the name of the company that makes these. You can find these on Amazon. Pretty sure they have a website too. I'm sure there are other companies that make these, but this is just the one that I found that I think is built pretty well. They're super easy to use. So if we look at this thing, you're going to see there are 5 slots for 5 fingers. Here's the slot for the thumb. It's very clear it's the thumb because it's very separate from the other holes. So I'm going to get my thumb in here. Just going to get each finger dropped into a slot. Take it up to roughly maybe like the first knuckle or so. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to create some resistance. So when we go to open our hand, we're actually able to train those muscles, which again, big thing is usually just there's some sort of imbalance. So now I've got this on my hand like this. All I'm going to do is rep work where I'm going to focus on opening the hand. And I want to make sure that this particular product has 3 different sizes. There's a light, there's a medium, and there's a heavy. This is the light one. But what you want to do is you need to use a resistance that allows you to pretty much open the hand up all the way. Don't take the heaviest one you can do and use half reps. It's just like being in the gym and doing a half squat or doing a half curl or doing a half bench press. It doesn't do jack shit. So I want to go here. My goal is to open this up So now my hand is completely open. Okay. You could conceptually do this with rubber bands too. I think the biggest problem is that most people finding rubber bands that aren't going to immediately snap as soon as your hand open up. So we're just going to take this. And again, we're just going to do reps. Okay. So what I like to do is open, do a couple seconds static hold, and come right back down. And what I like to do, because most people are going to find that they're fairly weak when they're doing this, is just pick a total number of reps and then work on gradually building that number up. So I like to have people start with just doing like 20 reps at a time and then gradually building up the number that you can do. Now, initially for some people, it might take you essentially 3 or 4 sets. Maybe you get 7 or 8 reps in a row, then you get tired, sit here for 20, 30 seconds, go again. I just keep the band on one hand and just keep going until I've hit a cumulative number. Again, I start with 20, and then maybe for the first week you do 20 reps a day, second week 30 reps a day, 40 and 50. I think for the most part, by the time you're starting to hit 50, maybe 60 reps a day, you're probably starting to alleviate a lot of the issue. You don't have to keep going until you're hitting 100, 200 reps at a time. If you want to keep building strength here, once you've hit 50, you could try to go up to the next band size, start all the way back at the bottom, go to the next band size, go all the way back to the bottom. Again, only count reps where you can get this thing all the way open. Okay, so if your last 3 or 4 reps are looking like this, don't count them as not doing what we want to do. So we've got mobility work for both sides of the forearm tissue, and then we've got some strengthening stuff. So what I would do is anytime you're trying to treat, I hesitate to use the word treat because I'm not a doctor or a physical therapist, but anytime you're trying to address any sort of persistent pain like this, you're better off taking a more frequent approach to it and doing it in smaller settings. So this might only take 10 minutes a day, but I would do it most days. Ideally do this 5, 6, 7 days a week until the issue starts to back off. Now, I can tell you when I was doing this was pretty much completely resolved for me within about 2 weeks. So I was doing the mobility work for the forearm. I would do it on its own along with the hand deck stuff every day. And then I would do those same techniques before I was training my biceps and triceps, specifically my biceps, specifically anything like hammer related. So if I was doing hammer curls or reverse curls, I knew that was going to be a big problem. So I would always do that before my first set or two. So I might do a set of stretches, both directions, do a warm-up set of hammer curls, do another set of stretches, both directions, do a second set of hammer curls, and then by then I'm probably pretty well good to go. So if you've been dealing with this type of forearm pain, again, symptomatically, this fits the bill for tennis elbow or lateral epicondylitis. Again, if it's beyond just persistent pain and you feel like there could actually be something more significant, please get this looked at. Don't just take YouTube advice, but I think this is a really good start. Super common, again, if you're somebody who spends a lot of time in the gym. So hopefully this helps. If it helped you, or even if it didn't help you, drop a note in the comments. If you got questions, I'm happy to give you some feedback on what I think might also be valuable if you can't get this sorted out. Make sure you like the video, make sure you liked our channel, and that way you can catch more of these as they come up. But you guys have a good weekend.